All right, I'm live. Okay, so hello. It is July 7th, 2:24 a.m. Um, I am live indeed. Let me silence all this vibrations and whatnot going on. This is the first time I'm going live. And no, I'm not going to be on camera, but I definitely need to talk. Pretty sure I'll be the only one on this live because that's my first time. And I think I only literally have like 36 subscribers right now. Oh, well, this is practice, but I definitely need to dish. So if anyone that does come in to join, thank you. Um, I am also recording this for my podcast simultaneously. I can't even speak. Um, so welcome. If you're on YouTube, of course, thank you for stopping by my wonderful channel. If you're listening from the podcast Gully Speaks, thank you so much for joining in and tapping in and listening to this broadcast. Um, I am literally in the kitchen doing this, hoping that I do not get any interruptions. It is dead middle of summer. All of the children are home. I currently live with a relative who has six wonderful children, five who are home, all teenagers except for the youngest, who's 12, same age as my youngest. Um, but they're all home and they all stay up to the wee hours of the night. Some literally until the sun come up, and they sleep all day. So hopefully I can get through this with nobody moseying in the kitchen looking for a snack as they normally do. Anyhow, so I definitely have been going through a lot of transformation lately. In my 3D reality, spiritually, I just been catching it left and right. Um, but what I want to talk about right now, it's been pressing and burning on me all day, literally, like go hit record. And it just hit me to go live as well. Um, but I want to talk about my first heartbreak after almost 10 years. 10 freaking years. Oh my God. I have not been in a relationship or been in any kind of connection with anyone to, you know, open myself up to where a heartbreak could occur. So, yes, my last heartbreak was almost 10 years ago in 2016. And man, I met this guy, first guy that I've ever dated that's been this much older than me. He will be 54 this month. And I turned 40 this year. I've never dated someone more than a year or so older than me that I can recall, but definitely never this big of an age gap. Like, never have I done this. Um, but because I've been going through so much since that last heartbreak and just transformation after transformation, just really trying to assess myself when it came to my love life, I just had not really been in any real connections. Not for lack of trying. Well, kind of for lack of trying. I hadn't really been intentional. I have had some, guys I've met, but it really never went anywhere. Um, Definitely never to the point of me like opening myself up to heartbreak, right? It never ever got that far. Of course, I've had some, hit and runs. Not necessarily hit and runs, just um, I won't even say casual hookups when it came to sex, but I guess that's what you can call it. I mean, they weren't one night stands, but they just were, hey, somebody from the past might pop up and I might, be like, hey, let's do the damn thing. Or if I did meet somebody new, it was kind of like, we talked for a few months and then, hey, let's do the damn thing. Might hit it another once or twice and then that'd be that. But I haven't intentionally been open to any kind of real connections. And I finally opened myself up for that after doing so much work and just going through so many transformations. I said, hey, you know what? I'm ready to get back out there. I'm really ready to connect with a man again. And I did that. And how did I do that? Oh, Tinder. Went right to Tinder because I definitely don't get out. I'm always home with the kids. I don't get out. I don't really care for social scenes anymore. I just don't. Bars, clubs. I don't care for any of that. So I went to online dating, went back to Tinder. I have a Tinder account that I've had for some years. I'll, make it invisible here and there and just open it when I'm bored, basically. But I said, fuck it. I already have the account. Cool. So I open it up. And this is July of 2025. So this was October, November, maybe, that I opened the account back up, made it back visible. And swipe right on a couple of them, but one of them, really took off. We'll call him Alan. And, he's older. He really didn't strike me as someone that would, I would normally go for, right? Of course, the age difference was like, whoa, this guy's in his early 50s. That's definitely new for me. But he did have, quite an interesting profile nonetheless. So we start conversing. And of course, he, suggested a meetup. Tinder said he was only a couple miles away. So he, eventually went to suggesting a meetup. Yeah, just trying to see if somebody's going to come here. I heard the door open. Someone's going to the bathroom. But anyway, so this was during the school year, of course, with the kids. And um, he started offering, meetups. Now, at the time, I didn't really know what his work schedule was. He did tell me that he worked long hours, but I didn't really know what his work schedule was. So at the time, it was always something that was going to be late nights. And well, not really late, but kind of like, 9, 10 o'clock, where we could probably meet up at a restaurant that's open late, or, a bar or whatever, because of how late the schedule was. So I think the first time, he tried to do like a early breakfast, and it was some drama with my cousin's son that morning. And I'm just like, I was so flustered. I'm like, this is not going to be a good morning. So of course he probably thought that was just some story to not try to meet. And I'm just like, no, it was real. um, but it finally came down to it. Um, it was kind of like a random thing. One night I was just like, hey, you know what? Let's go for it. Let's try to, meet up somewhere. And he was like, yeah, I'm open to it. What you got in mind? And yes, moseying around. Go ahead, get it. Um, so yeah, he asked if we can meet up at he asked if we can meet up somewhere, and I said Applebee's. I had a taste for some wonton tacos, or not wonton tacos. It was actually quesadillas. I had a taste for quesadillas, and I remember telling him, like, hey, I'm looking for. I got a taste for some quesadillas, but of course, because I knew we were going to Applebee's, I also wanted some of those wonton tacos. But nonetheless, it happened. And I remember where I was at that time. I was just in such a happy space. Like I really remember it around that time I met him. I was really just feeling like in a really good space within myself. Like I was feeling good. I was feeling so full of love. I was feeling so refreshed. I had done so much work on myself. And I remember I was just in a really, really good place. And I remember getting ready that night. I put on like a red kind of slimming dress, cotton dress nonetheless. I never wear undergarments, so I certainly didn't wear any that night, but I did wear like a cover up over it. And yeah, I still had my car at the time, so we met up. I got there, I think a few minutes early. He messaged me on Tinder saying, hey, I'm running a few minutes behind. I think it was only like 5 or 6 minutes later, whatever. And so I just remember feeling so good that night. Oh, I just felt so good. So he got there, and I, of course, knew it was him when he pulled up. I could tell it was him. So we get out. He walks up. There's like this, of course, awkward hug. Hey, how are you? He was soft spoken. And so we walk up. He's walking behind me, of course. I know I'm smelling good. I'm looking good. Um, and then we get in, we have the date or whatever. And it didn't feel like a bad date. We definitely had great conversation as we did, when we were messaging. Conversation was great. And it just didn't feel like a great date. Like it didn't seem like we hit it off. There were some moments where it was just like, like I might like you, I might not, I don't know, but it just didn't feel like it was a great date. It was definitely a great conversation type of, setting. We did have, we had no problems, having conversation. Kind of gave me a little background on himself, gave him a little background on myself. But it just didn't feel, I don't know, maybe it was me, but it just didn't feel like a great date. And it's so funny because months in, I wrote him a poem kind of detailing how I was feeling and included, the steps and, that led up to where we were at that point in the connection. But I flat out said, I didn't think the date went great until the end. So, date went good. He pays for the meal and we get to my car and we hug. And that's when the sparks for me, at least, started flying. We hugged and it just felt so freaking magical. I don't know where it came from. Out of nowhere, it just felt so freaking magical when we hugged. And he pulled, we pulled away from the hug, and he's walking off, and then he was just like, "Oh, can I get your number?" Because we had never exchanged numbers. We had been communicating only through text. And I was like, "Oh, of course, of course." So I go give him my number, and what I did is I took his phone, put the number in. No, he gave me his number, and I just immediately called it, and I see my name, pop up on his caller ID. And so he hung it up, and he was just like, I think he said something about, I want to see you again or something along those lines. And so he could tell he didn't want to walk away. So I pulled him to me again to, for another hug. And that hug was even more electrifying. And I'm like, wow, wow. So I guess there was some kind of magic there happening. And I use that word intentionally, magic, because that's literally just the tone of the entire connection. It was magical. Um, but anyhow, so after that, of course, we continued, texting and whatnot. And he was very consistent with, with the texting, even during his busy work days, very consistent with the texting. We're still sharing things about each other. Things didn't go sexual right off. But of course, eventually we grown. It took a turn, to that, started sharing pictures, not any body parts or anything, but sharing pictures of each other and things like that. And um, it felt good. It felt good, that for me to just be open and, to whatever, open to whatever was going to happen. I wasn't closed off. If it was just going to be casual, it was going to be casual. If it was going to turn into a dating thing, it was going to be a dating. I didn't care. I was open to it. And I remember one morning, he texted me, he had a flat tire. I remember one night he was texting me that he was on his way home and he caught a flat. So I guess he was like using some kind of temporary fix tried to use a temporary fix the next day, and he came out and the tire was just gone. So he had to get it towed somewhere. So he texted me like, "Hey, do you want to meet me for, last minute breakfast?" It was like 9, 10 o'clock. I was like, "Yeah, sure." So he picked a place that was close by. I met him there and I was smitten. By that point, I was completely smitten by the man. So we're sitting across, we're having enjoying this breakfast, and that is when I wanted him. I guess considered technically date too, but that is when I wanted him. I really wanted to kiss him so bad. They were just sitting there having that breakfast, but it was a lot of just exchanged looks, and I just couldn't believe how much I was smiling. I was smiling so much. But it was a beautiful, beautiful lunch date. So we were done, but his car wasn't done. The car was like literally down the street from where we were having the breakfast. And so I was like, well, you know what? Well, let's just go sit in the parking lot of the car place. I took him, we got in my car and we can just sit until, it's ready. So we get there and we got handsy. We got handsy like teenagers. Oh my God. It was so amazing. It was so amazing. Literally ended up making out in the car, like making a full on hands. Just he went in for the kiss, and man, oh my god, oh my god, I will never forget that day. I don't think I've ever had a makeout session, ever. I've never had a makeout session, and we were in there like two hot and bothered 15-year-olds going at it, and it was so wonderful. Oh my God, so wonderful. Um, yes, we definitely were touching and feeling, and but it was wonderful. It was freaking phenomenal. So I'm just like on cloud nine with just with this man so far. Um, and so now we hadn't gotten to a point of discussing where it was going. It was just we were enjoying it. Whatever was happening, we were enjoying it. Um, so I want to say 2 or 3 weeks after that, it was time. One night we're texting and we're like, okay, it's that time. So he sends me his address and I go over. And when I get there, he's DJing. I didn't know now that part he had never shared with me. He was a DJ on the side for some years back. But apparently it's, just a hobby for him. And they got like, he has a whole DJ setup. Um, in one of his bedrooms. He owns his house. I think it was a 3 bedroom. So he had one of the rooms was the guest room. Then he had, of course, his room, and then the third room it was just full of DJ equipment, all types of old school like vinyls and shit in there. It was amazing to see. It was amazing. He's just in there jamming, 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 jamming. So he finally starts to come down off his little jam session. I feel like I was in a club. It was wonderful. um, so he leads me into the living room and dives in head first between the legs. Oh man, he went in and he's a eater. My goodness, that man is an eater. Wow. Needless to say, that night was fucking phenomenal. Fucking phenomenal. That was the best sexual experience of my life. And it wasn't just the physical. It wasn't just the physical. It wasn't just the stroke. I've never had everything that I've desired in a man sexually in one person. Something was always missing. Something was always missing. But the physical part, his appendage wasn't, good enough, but he might have had a little bit of intimacy in him, or something was just always missing. Everything I have ever wanted in a man, as far as being pleased and getting a fulfilling sexual experience, was with him. So needless to say, I was immediately hooked. But it was just something so magical about it. That's the only way I can describe this connection. It was magical. Like everything from the kiss, from the touch, from the way we looked at each other, from the way we cared for each other before, during, after, the way we just meshed, synced. It was something I had never, ever experienced. And he fell quickly. He did. Um, as things progressed, he started to pull away. And I'm definitely uh, energetically sensitive. So you can say what you want, you can do what you want, but I can feel what's really going on. And I started feeling the pull away. I did. I started to feel that pull away. And I called it out. I called it out. And I told him, I think it was right around the time that my brother had passed when he had his accident. And I remember, I think I was sending him a voice message. You're sending him a voice message through text message, just kind of talking through what I was feeling about how I felt like he was pulling away. And of course, he was just like, "Oh no, I'm just working," or "Oh, I'm just tired." But no, I could feel it. And come to find out, of course, weeks later, we ended up having an argument, and we had gone like a couple of weeks not speaking. But come to find out, when we reconnected, he admitted it. He was like, "Yeah, I realized I was falling for you so quickly. I couldn't believe how quickly I was falling for you. I couldn't believe how vulnerable I've been with you. I've told you things I've never told people before, about my childhood, So he was just really like, I cannot believe how quickly I was falling for you. And yes, it scared me. Right. And so now this has been the tone. That was the tone ever since. So now this is how he's feeling. He kind of, of course, reeled it back in, but then he still was now playing, playing the fence. Right. And then I started to do the same. And it's so funny because I wholeheartedly know and understand now that, the people we choose to deal with in our lives are nothing but mirrors. And he was definitely a big mirror. And it not in a real, and it wasn't all in a bad way. It definitely was in a way of, this is where you are. And he really showed me my growth. He showed me how I've grown as a person. He showed me the maturity, and just dealing with connections. And it's just, the whole connection was just Still mind blowing. It's to this day just still mind blowing. But anyway, I ended up realizing that I had, a lot more feelings for him than I realized. And so now all this fear overtook me. So, weeks after he comes back, from, almost running away, I start to run away. Right. And so now we are in this cycle of pulling back, coming back, pulling away, coming back, pulling. So we were doing that. And then I ended up calling him out, that he's avoidant. He really started showing his avoidance. He doesn't like being accountable, and he's very much avoidant. He doesn't like dealing with any kind of, um, what's the word? Confrontation. He doesn't like dealing with any kind of confrontational situations. He will just pull away, right? And it's funny because when we ended up having our second argument, he actually called it out. We were on the phone because our first argument was really kind of by text. The second argument was by phone. And he was just like, he flat out said to me, he said, "You pull out this accountability in me, and I don't understand why I care what you think of me." And it's funny because I am a truth teller, right? And I told him, and that second time we blew up when we had that argument and that conversation, I said, "Listen, I am a truth teller. Maybe I can, change up how I'm coming at you, or, pick and choose, what I share with you about yourself." He was like, "I didn't sign up to be, so on some panel here to always be told about who I am, what I am. You don't know me long enough to do this and this, yada, yada, yada." Basically, AKA, you don't have a right to tell me, call out my bullshit, right? Um, but even after that second blow up, I knew we weren't going to last much longer because he wasn't able to digest who I was fully. And I knew it. I knew at that point it wasn't going to make it very far because he wasn't able to really look in the mirror. He wasn't able to deal with who I was, showing him that mirror of who he is, showing him that mirror of these are where your wounds are. These are where those flaws are that need some work. And it's funny because he told me, he said, after so many years, I really thought I had my shit together and under control. And here you come and you kind of obliterated what I thought I had under control. So I know I was a big mirror for him, to wake him up to the things he either thought he had under control or AKA fixed. I really kind of blew that illusion away. And that's not something easy to digest. So we were definitely just kind of going through the motions. But I think that second time we got into it, we knew it wasn't going to last much longer because he just was not ready to digest the accountability. He wasn't ready to digest what I bring. And I have gotten to the point now, well, I now have to understand that a lot of people are not going to be able to take me. And I've gotten to that understanding when it comes to friends, family, the world. But I never really had that, you know, kind of experience with a guy to be like, this is the reason why it didn't work, because they can't take the level of accountability. They can't take the type of mirror you are. You are a very big mirror, and people just can't digest that shit. But he was just such a wonderful, wonderful man. I'm not saying he was a bad guy. He wasn't at all. He's the sweetest guy I've ever dealt with. Like, but I knew too by that second argument that he also doesn't have what it takes, or wasn't willing to show it or give it, when it comes to me needing the type of security that I need in a partner. I know the type of person I am. I am a all in type of person. Okay. I am there for you, and you're going to know I'm there for you. And I need that kind of reciprocation in my life. I need that kind of reciprocation from people in my life. If you don't have that same kind of urgency, if you don't have that same kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess it is urgency, just to be like, hey, there is no if ands or buts about it. If you're in my life, you're a part of my life. I got you and you got me, no questions about it. Right. And then there was money ended up being an issue. So I am in a very financially tight situation right now. I walked away from my job, April of last year, and have been trying to find my footing with this social media thing, because I know this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And it's funny because he was the mirror to show me that I still have that wound of, number one, not being able to receive, not being able to feel like I am deserving and worthy of getting my needs met. And number two, asking men for money. That has never been a thing that I have been comfortable with. I have been so hyper independent and, learned early on that I couldn't depend on people, especially men though, that I never wanted to ask a man for money. Out of hell, I didn't even feel comfortable asking the father of my children for money. And we have children, right? I'm over here raising our children alone, and I didn't even want to ask him for money, right? So me forcing myself to ask this man for little things here, and there was never, big amounts of money. It was like maybe $50 here, $100 here, for essentials, or for a bill. And that even turned into an issue, not because he didn't want to, but because he felt like I at some point made him, in his mind, it turned out to be a deflection, but in his mind he twisted it as if I'm not responsible for paying your bills. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Another situation at another time. But just so many wounds were exposed in both of us, because according to him, he's never given money to a woman that wasn't the mother of any of his children or family. So this was a first for him as well, to give money to a woman that he was just dating or casually dating or whatever, because we never put a title on what we were doing. We were just doing. And feelings got involved, deep feelings got involved. So it was just so many lessons and wounds being exposed with us in this connection. But I got to a point where I told him, I said, I can't continue to be in this fog with you. I proposed that we take it further, on our terms, whatever that further looked like, but we couldn't be stuck in that casual flow anymore because our feelings have gotten too deep. And I like structure. I mean, go with the flow has its place, but I definitely, like structure, especially when feelings are involved. There has to be some sort of understanding of what's happening. And he would not give me that. He would mention, oh, I considered, doing this with you and taking it to this level with you, but there were quote unquote red flags with you. And it was just, he basically he knew he could not digest me as a whole. He just couldn't. I know that. He was not going to say that. But the fact that he even flat out said to me, the accountability you bring out in me, I knew that was going to be the kicker for him. He could not digest the mirror that I am for him. So over the last week, there were a lot of conversations, voice messages, shall I say, because he had to start pulling away energetically. I was feeling it. So I called it out once again. Hey, okay, you're getting ghost here. What are we doing? And it's funny because just days ago, he even texted to me and said, hey, we need to go out on more dates. We need more time together, yada, yada, yada. And I'm just like, it's just so inconsistent with him. One moment you're telling me we need more dates. The next moment, shit's getting weird. You're getting ghosts. And I'm just like, it's been an inconsistent up and down fog, and I can't do it anymore. So I called it out. I said, listen, this is it. This is where I draw the line, because you're not going to do it. What are we doing? This is what I want. I've already told you what I want. I want you in my life. What are we doing? Right? So he picked up the phone yesterday and said, okay, you said the ball's in my court. Well, this is where I am. I do not want to move forward with this connection. And then he kind of winces up a little, and he's like, I don't feel like I should have to explain. And something else he mumbled, but it kind of got like faint. And at that point, I'm just like, oh, I said, okay. I said, so that's it. He was like, yeah, I guess. And I'm like, okay, well, that's a clean out. I said, thank you. And that we ended the call. And I'm just like, I can't believe it. Like, this most magical connection I have ever experienced is over. And it's funny because it doesn't feel like it's over, but he actually, for the first time, said the words, I don't want to move forward. And I'm just like, I don't know. And it's funny because we've done this a couple of times throughout this, what is this, 8 months we've been doing this, where we pull away, somebody goes, the other one just doesn't care. We pull away, but then we always reconnect, because when we are together, it's magical. One of the most, that's the only way I can describe it, just fucking pure magic in what we created. The environment when we are together, the love making, the talking, it was pure magic. And even he didn't have the words to really describe the environment we created, what we created. It was magical. And now it's potentially gone. And for the first time in over 10 years, my heart aches. One of the most wonderful men that literally seemed to have everything. I I've never had such a safe space. I've never felt so safe with a man, sexually, shall I say. Um, he didn't offer the stability that I was looking for, the assurance that I was looking for. And it's funny because I also too know that anything you're looking for in another person is generally something you're not giving yourself. So of course, as I'm reflecting, I know those are things I have to touch on, but just I already know in a partner, in a man, I need to know that without a shadow of a doubt, he's going to be there 100%. And he didn't give me that vibe. Again, I don't know if it's just because he didn't have the capacity to, it's just not him, or he just didn't share that part of himself with me because of his fear. Because he flat out even told me, he was transparent along the way. He flat out told me out the blue one day, he said, I forget how he started the message, but it basically he said, I felt like you could play me and I would have let you. I mean, we were even unprotected having sex, and I'm just like, I've never been that reckless. I was letting this man relieve himself in me, and I've never been that reckless other than with my children's father. Like this connection had me so open and vulnerable in a way that I'm just like questioning myself, like, what the fuck were you doing? And he says the same, like we were just so in a vulnerable space with each other. And it's crazy because we don't understand why. But it was just pure magic. But it's seemingly over and my heart is broken. And of course, after almost 10 years of not allowing myself to be that vulnerable to where I could actually love a man or care for a man or fall in love with a man. And this is what happens. Of course, I'm just like, yep, back in the vault. Absolutely not. Because why did that happen? Why would such a beautiful experience be presented to me and then it's gone just like that? Like, and I'm so sick of the cliches of, oh, what did you learn? Or it was just an experience. No, the way I love, and people say, when people say I love hard, I've learned that it comes from blah, can't even speak properly. It comes from a codependent space, right? But that's not where I'm coming from. I I have a rare type of love, and I know I do. I'm a rare being, and I know I am. The type of authenticity I bring, the level of loyalty I bring, the level of accountability, which obviously has been shown with this man that I bring. I know the type of person, I know the type of asset, I know the type of fragility. I love differently. And not a lot of people, there are not a lot of women out there that can love to my capacity. And it definitely is going to take some kind of unicorn of a man to be able to harness what I bring. And I just don't even know if I'm even open to that. My heart is shattered. My heart is broken after almost 10 years. It's insane. My heart is broken. We never made a commitment to each other. And that's one thing that has not changed within me over the last few years. I don't give a shit. I know situationships can be dangerous. Um, but I definitely can understand. And it's funny because we had that conversation as well, which led me to propose it to him to say, hey, you want to be my man? Go ahead then. Because apparently you're having trouble with some of this stuff because he's a big, oh, I compartmentalize this. If this goes here, this goes there. I don't do this for a woman I'm just sleeping with, but I might do this for a girlfriend. I'm like, you seem to be having trouble with that. So put a little more structure on it, put a title on. And it's funny because I pointed out to him, I said, this is why humans need titles, right? But for me, I feel like title or no title, if I care about you, if I love you, I'm going to treat you wholeheartedly regardless. It comes for free. It's not going to come just because it has a title. This is just who I am. And I give it because that's who I am, not because this is the title you have in my life, right? But I loved him. I had to finally accept that. It's funny because a couple nights ago, I was just laying there watching a movie and I got overtaken with so much emotion. And I knew it was him. And I realized, I said to myself, I said, oh my God, I love this man. I've been trying to scapegoat by saying, oh, I deeply care. No, I love this man. And I had to verbally say it to myself, you love this man. And a couple of days later, he's telling me he doesn't want to move forward with the connection. My heart is broken. But I can't be angry because it was such a wonderful, amazing, magical experience. And it had so much, I hate to say it, potential. It had so much. There should have been so much more that we got from it. There should have been more. We deserved more out of this connection. So is it the end? I don't know. Do we need a break? Does he need time to assess, make some adjustments, try again? I don't know. But I know he was wonderful. Absolutely fucking wonderful. And my heart is broken. Let me know in the comments if you've had a similar experience. What was your experience? Have you ever felt magic? Like pure magic? Whether it was a committed relationship, it was just a connection you had. Have you ever felt pure magic? Until next time.